Hello there. Today we are looking at the Brotherhobby R6 Returner Motors. Ta-da! So I picked these up from Infinity Drone in the UK. They are around about £18.50. Probably exchange rate wise they probably end up being about the same price in US. They are a 2306, so 23mm stator with 6mm in height. They've got a bottomless design and they are running at 2450 kV. They are also rather shiny and pretty, so they're quite nice. As usual, they've got a very long cable, which seems to be the part of the course nowadays, given people are moving more towards 4-in-1 ESCs, and they have got a bolt top, as you'd expect to have in most motors, not quite like the Armattan motors that I have normally. Also, no C-clip on the bottom, so they're nice little motors. Now, I did do a little bit of research, and the difference between the R5 motors, the previous generation of this motors, other than the fact there's a wider range because it was around for longer, the only difference is these got the same magnets, they're the same weight, exactly the same weight. The only difference that I've found is the ball bearings are different. Now, I don't know if that's different better, or different lighter, or different cheaper. They are just different. Now, what I'm going to do is install them onto my Mongoose, which I did a build series on. I'll put a link on how what I did with this, because I want to try out some different motors on this. I was using some old Emax motors, nothing wrong with these, but they are just old tech. So I'm going to install these on here and see how they go. But what I'm really interested in is the comparison between these and the Titanum Oomph motors. Now, the Titanum Oomph motors are 23mm stator, 6mm height, 2450 kV. And what I mean by kV is kV, useful piece of information, kV is revs per volt. So if you give it 1 volt without any load on the bearing, so no prop or anything like that, that is what the kV stands for. So it's a useful thing to know. I'd had to go and do a little bit of research to find out actually what that meant. We just use it all the time, and that's what it means. So these two motors on paper are pretty much the same. So I'm really interested to see how they do. The biggest difference that I could find between the two of them is obviously this one is £1 more in the UK. The weights are a bit weird because this does its weights without any cabling on. This does its weights with cabling on. We'll sort that out. We'll do that measurement and see what they're like. So it'll be really interesting to see what we get on for our money on these. So I'm gonna try installing these onto my new system, and I'll then compare it to how my Oomph motors perform, and see if I get a general difference between the two. So let's install some motors. Right, so I've cut the cables down so they're pretty much the same length now. Let's just fire up Mrs. Rose's scales and let's weigh them. So 29 grams and 32 grams, so ever so slightly lighter. Now I've left the prop nuts on and various bits and pieces to make it fair, so these are ever so slightly lighter. The other thing I found interesting is I measured the stator height, the height at this point between these two. So the height on here between the bottom plate and where your prop line would be is actually the same. Oop. 18.4 and 18.3, so more or less the same. So they're very, very similar motors, although these are slightly lighter. So that's an interesting fact. So that's now the motors all installed. Do a little bit of tidying up of the cabling and doing a little bit of wrapping up. So let's wrap those up and let's see what it does in the field.
Warning, non-scientific testing approaching. So what I did was I simply took my Rooster with its Titan motors and my Mongoose with its R6 motors, which are two very different frames and two different weights, and tested them. Now, I wanted to see what the general difference was. There are some obvious differences between the two frames, I know that, but I wanted to see what the differences were in terms of just how it felt. So I did a bunt test, a vertical climb, and I did a speed test across a rugby pitch. Rugby pitch about 100 metres. Okay, so here are the bunt tests. So this is the Rooster, its Titan motors, nearly hit the post. So that's your benchmark. And now here is the R6 motors on the Mongoose. Lighter frame, so it should be quicker, and I think that shows that it is quicker. It's quite considerably quicker actually. Batteries shouldn't be too much different at that point of the flight. So here's the straight line test across the rugby pitch. 100 metre rugby pitch. This is the Rooster with its Titans, about 73 miles an hour. And this is the R6 going across the same rugby pitch slightly later on. Now, I noticed that this didn't seem to make it quite as quickly across the pitch. I'm wondering if it's batteries. I do think that it probably is a little bit quicker on the pickup, and once they hit the same natural top speed. So where do I think I am with these? I quite like the R6 motors. They're slightly cheaper. I actually prefer a nut on top of my motors. I have been running Armattan motors for quite some time, and unfortunately I just got annoyed with the fact that those prop nuts, you just lose them, and these are easy to come by. So I would certainly consider putting these on any quad that I've got. They are really nice, they're really torquey, the efficiency was really good, they flew for about the same length of time, so I'm really happy with them. I would definitely recommend them if you're building a frame. Haven't compared them to the R5s to see if they're a notable improvement, but they are interesting motors and they are very, very pretty. So if you're looking for some motors for your 5-inch quad or your 6-inch probably as well, will be easily put on those, then these are certainly a good option for you. Right, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I will see you all next time.